We are going to just review some things we did, not last week because you guys were on spring break, but the week before that. So we started talking about geometry, so different lines and different types of angles. So I don't want to do anything new since it's been over a week since we've done this. So I'm just going to go through a couple of the different things that we've learned so far. So when you opened up this Google slide, I said to wait, listen to this first, and then you'll see that there's more things after that, and I'll explain what that is next. But I just wanted to review some of the things that we've been talking about so far the previous week in math. So we talked about 4 different types of angles. I'm going to show you pictures of each ones and kind of give you some examples. So we're just reviewing today. And then after this, you're going to do some practice problems that I want you to do on this slideshow. So one of the types of angles that we talked about is an acute angle. Remember, it looks like this. So it's smaller than a right angle. And we'll talk about a right angle in a minute. And remember that it can be turned any ways. So even if your angle is going like this, I want you to pay attention to this area right here. Sometimes you might see that little line that I just drew in a pencil, and that's just showing that that's the angle there. So we're going to be talking this week about angle measures and degrees. You might have heard that a little bit when we started to talk about angles. We'll do that more towards the end of the week. But if you look at this, that's what they're showing you. This is the angle right here, and this is an acute angle. So that's one of the angles that we talked about last week. Now, you can use a right angle to help you identify the other types of angles. So this is a right angle. It's 90 degrees, which we'll talk more about degrees, like I said before, but it has a line going straight up and straight across and kind of forms this corner here. A lot of times you see, not always, but a lot of times you see that little square in the corner, and that kind of helps you to identify that's a right angle. So if you compare the two that we just talked about, an acute angle and a right angle, do you see how the angle on the acute angle, so that pencil mark that I drew, is smaller than this right here where this square is? So I wouldn't be able to make a square right in this spot because it's too small. That's how you know it's an acute angle. This part here is less than a right angle, which is this. Now remember, this is all review, so this stuff, these terms should kind of start to sound familiar. Now the other type of angle we talked about is an obtuse angle. So this is an obtuse angle. I'm going to draw the angle with my pencil again. Again, you wouldn't be able to form a square there like how you do with a right angle. So then you know it's obtuse. It's larger than a right angle. And again, this is your right angle to compare. You can make that square right there. This you couldn't do. It's bigger. So this part here, that's the angle. It's bigger than a right angle. Now, the last one we talked about was a straight angle, which basically is just a straight line. So this part right here would be the angle measure. So it would just be this whole part here, but it's just a straight angle or a straight line. Now, we also talked about different types of lines. There were 3 different types of lines that we talked about. The first one was perpendicular lines. So again, you see this square here, which that should look familiar. That means that that's going to be a right angle. And you should see right angles in perpendicular lines. You should see 4 of them. Now I only have 1 of them marked, but really all of these would also be right angles. So I could go through, I'm going to do it for you right now, and I could mark all of those. Those are all right angles. They all form that 90 degrees. They all form those corners. They're not always going to be marked like that. Sometimes it might not be marked at all, and you'll see that in the quiz that I'm, not really a quiz, but just practice problems that I'm going to give you. But these are perpendicular lines. One goes up and down, one goes across, and they form 90-degree angles. Again, remember, just like the angles, lines can be rotated. So it could be like this, it could be like this, but however you move it, there's still going to be perpendicular lines. The next one that we talked about are parallel lines. Remember, parallel lines never touch, the same distance apart. Last week I had you guys send me some images from your house or things that you found by your computer of things that were parallel lines. You guys did a nice job with that. So you might think of like a ladder. This would be parallel. This would be parallel. Some of you took a picture of a window. The sides of a window would be parallel. Some of you just showed me 2 pencils or 2 markers. Those would be parallel. Parallel lines are never going to touch. They're the same distance apart, and they just keep going. So that was another one that we talked about. And finally, the last one we talked about were intersecting lines. Now, intersecting lines and perpendicular lines can be kind of the same, except intersecting lines, they don't have to form those squares, those 90-degree angles, those right angles, like intersecting lines do. Now, they can, but they don't have to. So intersecting lines just mean any 2 lines that cross. So intersecting lines can be perpendicular lines, but they don't have to be. They can just cross it any way. So they can form, like if you look up here, this would be an obtuse angle. So with this, these 2 on the opposite sides are acute angles. So a lot of times you see that in intersecting lines. Now that we've reviewed the different types of lines and angles, I'm going to have you continue with this Google slide, and you're going to see a couple different examples on the next few. So I have them all numbered. So the next slide will say 1, and then 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think it goes up to 15 or 16. The first few are going to be, you're going to tell me, what kind of line is it? Or what kind of angle? I'm not sure which one I have first, but it puts the question up there for you, and you're going to write that down. So you can get a piece of paper, and you can just write them down on a piece of paper as you go through it. So on your paper, you would put number 1, and then you'd write what kind of angle or what kind of line it is, and then 2, 3, and keep going. The very last problem, you're going to tell me, it's going to show you a picture of something that you've probably seen before, you see almost every day, and you're going to tell me what types of angles and what types of lines you see in that image. You're not going to type right on the computer, you're going to write it, and then you can either go back to the email that I'm going to be sending you with this and type it into me, or you can have your mom or dad or whoever take a picture of it and send it to a Google Doc. So you're not typing right into the slide. You're going to open up an email or respond to this email, and you're going to type in the numbers and tell me which types of angles and lines it is. And that's what you're doing today for math. Thank you.